as we move into Toledo week here, maybe relive for us the feelings of retaining the bronze stalk last week, and then talk about how you've flipped a page to the Rockets this week.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, golly, that game seems like it was forever ago. But obviously, that was a great win last week for us, and you know, the way the game finished up was a credit to our players for just kind of staying the course there. And as we all know, the game ebbs and flows. And at one point in time there, we had a 2-touchdown lead, and then obviously we had some moments there in the second half where we didn't execute the way we needed to, and then obviously the game got close there. But really just proud of the guys for staying together on the sideline as much as anything else. And then when we had an opportunity to go deliver at the end of the game, I think that's really important, because that's something we've talked about a lot. Is big point of emphasis coming out of last season is the close games that we were in. We didn't deliver when we had an opportunity, and that was big for us to be able to go deliver. I look back and I go, golly, we had a chance there. We went up by 9 points, which was a huge kick by Jack Knight, a young guy, to step in. It was windy conditions right before the kick. It seemed like we had a big gust of wind that picked up like almost into his face. And so for a second there, I'm like, daggone it. Didn't want that to mess with his psyche, but obviously, he's got ice in his veins there, and the wind calmed, and he drilled it there to go up by 9. But the play before that, we had a penalty called on us for an illegal man downfield in an RPO game. And that's one of those that I challenged Drew. I challenged Johans that we score a touchdown right there with a little bit better throw, and you make a contested catch. They can't catch us. And I know you could say to some degree we went up by 9 points, but we get a touchdown right there, and they're playing from behind, and everything's in our control. And so those are the things that hey, it was great, and it was great to go up by 9, but it could have been better. And so really just reflecting back the day after, I know the defense is not going to get enough credit, but if you look at the second half there, starting in the third quarter, 3 plays, -4 yards. The next drive, 3 plays, 7 yards. The next play, 4 plays, 11 yards. There was some unbelievable defensive play. Everybody, there was the big touchdown, that they had there on the long one in the second half. Obviously was something that everybody's going to point to that, but the effort leading up to that point, and holding them to 10 points there in the second half, I really thought the defense did again a great job halftime, making some adjustments, coming out, really answering the bell, responding. The veteran players on our defense, the Bryces of the world, the Jay Thomases, the Brandon Martins, Christian Albrights. I mean, AJ, those guys stepped up in the second half and took it personal at halftime. And we came back and played a really good second half of defense there. And so big win for us, 2 in a row to get started here at Schumann Stadium. Obviously, we enjoyed it that night. We enjoyed having an opportunity to put the trophy back in the trophy case and get a little bit more Cardinal tender love and care on that trophy. But it was on to the next one. Toledo, our focus is on Toledo. We obviously took advantage of those couple extra days.
Coach, we've lost your audio there. At least I have. There you go. We're back.
You can hear me now, okay? Okay,
yep.
Sorry about that. But I was just kind of finishing that it was, it was on to Toledo. We enjoyed it that night, put the trophy back in the case, and, Toledo's the best team that we will have played to date. And we got to have a great week of preparation. Put a great game plan in place, get some of the guys that are banged up back, and we got to be ready to go. It'll be a great challenge, and obviously we want to stay in the winners bracket.
Okay, great. We'll go to some questions. Start with Connor from the Daily News.
Hey, Coach. I was just curious, you're playing a Toledo team that in each of their 3 games so far, they've scored at least 38 points, I believe. How do you prepare your defense for the types of challenges they might present?
Yeah, obviously Toledo's got a lot of explosive playmakers. Obviously the quarterback, was knocked out in the Eastern Michigan game, but from all indications appears that he will be back. But they're explosive. They've done an excellent job in recruiting. They're playing at a high level offensively. They're playing at a high level defensively, playing at a high level on special teams. And so this, again, is going to be the biggest challenge, the best team that we've had so far on the schedule. Coach Candle's done a great job there, but you watch them and you know that you got to do the best you can to try to limit the big plays. Obviously, they've had great balance too. They've been able to run it when they want to run it. They've been able to throw it when they want to throw it. So it's going to be a great challenge. Obviously we've challenged our guys up front, knowing that all starts in the trenches, and we got to make sure that we play the best game that we've played so far as that front seven goes defensively.
Coach, I also wanted to ask you about, your relatively new offensive coordinator, Kevin Lynch. You hired him almost a year ago, and now, here you are at the halfway point of the season. What type of impact has he had on your guys' success so far this season?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that that's already been a year ago, considering the crazy year. But Kevin's done a great job. He's really done a great job. We work kind of, hand in hand, if you will, in terms of the game plan, and really the whole offensive staff is involved in that. But he's done a great job as far as the preparation piece of it goes. What we want to get done today, hey, today is first and second down base. Tomorrow we want to get third down red zone accomplished. Then we want to make sure we're good to go 2 minutes. And so he's really done a good job leading the charge as far as the preparation goes in the meeting room with the offensive staff, making sure he has everybody's responsibilities, including the GAs and each position coach, what they're responsible for in terms of the breakdown of our opponent each week. And so he's really done a good job with that. He's done a good job when we've been, it's hard to have, offensive team meetings right now because of COVID. So we're limited in the amount of people that we can have together in one room based on the space available. But he's really done a good job with kind of, the meetings when we've had the meetings, and making sure that the message delivered, hey, who the opponent is, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what our game plan is. And I've been really proud of him, what he's done so far. And, he's continuing to just, get better and improve each and every day. And, obviously every day I come into work, I know that certainly feel better and better and better about, naming Kevin as the offensive coordinator.
And I also wanted to ask, what it means for you to have him on your team, considering his brother was the former offensive coordinator, and, you kind of have a history with that family in your program.
Yeah, no question. Their dad was the one that I give a lot of credit to Bill for teaching me the game of football, not only in college, but when I was a kid. I went to, Bishop Dolahan camp as a kid, and Bill, he taught the camp playbook. And so, he taught me a lot about the game, and obviously was fortunate to have him as my offense coordinator when I was a player for 3 years. Obviously both Joey and Kevin were around on the practice field back then. And they knew as much back then as some of the players did. Those guys were in the meeting room. They were calling out X's and O's and drawing up plays, and, carrying the cord back in the day when you had to have a cord on your headset. Now everything is, wireless, if you will, but those guys were carrying the cords on the sideline. And just, it's just unbelievable family, great family that, their Ball State roots run deep. They love this university. They love this community. And you can see it each and every day, man. Those guys come into work every day. And I say those guys, Kevin, Joey, they come into work with a big smile on their face, and they just love this place and are obsessed with Ball State. And obviously I think it speaks to, obviously what they were able to learn growing up from their dad.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jordan from Star Press.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned, you talked a couple times about getting people some extra time as they're, nursing some injuries. I guess is Ben Stewart are Ben Stewart and Will Jones two people who you could potentially see available against Toledo? And then it also seemed like Caleb Huntley was nursing something last week as well.
Yeah, Ben has been back on the practice field. So we're hoping that as the week goes on here, the players are off today. We practice Saturday and Sunday. The players are off today, and then we get into a normal Tuesday tomorrow. But we're hoping, Ben was on the practice field over the weekend, hoping to see how the rest of the week goes with him. You could certainly see him in the lineup at Toledo in some fashions, whether it's rotating, whatever it may be. Will Jones, Will got banged up. Chance we might have him back for Toledo. We'll just kind of have to see how it goes, but he's done a great job of just being in the training room 3 or 4 times a day to stay on top of his treatment. Caleb is just, as you can imagine, coming from the Eastern Michigan game when he had 34 carries and he was a workhorse down the stretch, and he just was beat up, banged up. Nothing structurally, nothing that other than just being sore and all that stuff. And so he had a gutty performance again the other night. Certainly he was hurting, in that game against Northern Illinois, but we rested him by our choice and really because we needed to over the weekend. So, he's just been in the pool, been in the training room, nonstop treatment, just, really as much as anything else, just getting the soreness out because he's, a lot of carries there. And so, but we kept him out of practice over the weekend, give him, obviously Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he's off today. And so, certainly we're just going to be smart with him, what we do with him and as the rest of the week, goes along here with our preparation.
And someone who has, never missed a game for you so far in his career, and Justin Hall obviously has the potential this season to become the all-time receptions leader for this program. I know from, his first season here, he made a lot happen as a freshman All-American. But did you see that potential in him to potentially be at this spot by the end of his career right away? Or did that freshman year and just the subsequent time surprise you?
Yeah, I think when we watched his high school tape back from, when he in high school there in Georgia at Alexander High School, and it's like, we got to get that guy. Just some of the plays. And obviously I'm not promoting that he jumps over people, but when you watch his high school highlight tape, some of the same things you see here, you're like, holy cow, when he got the ball in his hands and you could see the acceleration so fast, and he's tougher than nails for a guy that's smaller in stature. He's got incredible balance and he's so strong. And so, he's tough as nails. I mean, he hasn't missed a game, and, everybody think about how many tackles, or it's so hard to get him on the ground. You think about the other day and on their sideline, we didn't appreciate it because it wasn't on our sideline, but when you watch the game tape, he's 4, 5, 6 tackles that he broke, and he just kept going and going and going. And, he's just, and obviously he's our primary return guy now, both kick returner and punt returner, but he's tougher than nails. And, the goal is always just how many times can we get the ball in his hands? And that's up to me and us as an offensive staff, but just continuing to, we got to get in his hands. Every time he gets in his hands, something good happens. And he's just, he's tougher than nails. And I definitely knew watching the high school tape back then, it's like, you knew that he would be a guy that would be on the field very early here. And once you meet him, as you guys have both met him, he's the ultimate competitor, and he does, by no means, it doesn't matter who you put in front of him, he thinks he's going to win no matter what. And that's why you love him, is because he's, he plays the game with a swagger.
And was there a moment, once you'd gotten to campus, where you thought, okay, he can handle this responsibility, where he showed, much like, Caleb Hunley did his freshman year, that he can handle this and, take on the load that we're going to ask of him?
Well, when we had, back then, we were allowed to, we brought the freshmen in because that was such a big freshman class. We brought the freshmen in like 3 days early before the rest of the veterans came in. And in those 3 days, like, oh gosh, look out. We played at Georgia State, didn't play a bunch of, but when we played, but when we played at Illinois that year in 2017, and he caught a hitch into the boundary and broke a tackle and took it all the way down to about the 2-yard line. He almost scored. He reached the ball across the pylon, as we've seen him do a couple of times. But when he made that play in that game on that stage, Big Ten opponent like that against Illinois, I was like, oh gosh. And then came back home, really had a huge game against UAB that next week. But I knew then, like, we just got to get the ball in his hands, and then how many times can we get it into his hands? So we knew the day he showed up, you knew he was a baller, and he was a guy that had a chance to be special.
Mm-hmm. And then, he was someone, I think, on a recent appearance he had on the Monday Night with the Red and White show, it seemed like he sort of alluded to maybe he's more mature now than he was as a freshman. I guess, was that maybe, holding back might be too strong of a way to put it, but do you feel like it was just him being mature enough to handle the responsibility really the only thing that could hold him back from where he is now?
No doubt. And obviously it's like any young player when they show up in the program, just, sometimes you have more structure involved in college than you do in high school. And so from the accountability part of it, going to class, making sure you're there on time, all those things that go into, making sure you hold guys accountable, because every player here is the best player at his high school. And so you got to make sure you set guidelines and you hold them accountable. And so he went through some growing pains, and, obviously it was great. Last week would be the first time going into the game that he was announced as one of our 4 captains. And, he made the comment to me afterwards, because I do it the last day of practice. I announce a captain, so the whole team is there to hear it on the field after the game, because the day of the game, you typically just have the travel squad here now with the way that COVID is. And so when I announced him as a captain, and I kind of make sure it's a great moment for those kids. You talk about their credentials, you talk about their career, you talk about their performance in the classroom, so all their teammates can hear them. And that's a big deal. And so he was named as one of the 4 captains. And after practice, he was going off field with a big smile. He goes, I don't know if I ever thought that would happen. I said, hey, you've come a long way and you've worked hard at it. So he acknowledges that, but it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't anything detrimental. Just simply, you have more structure in college than you probably do in high school, and making sure that, when you are late for something or you miss something, then, you got to do punishment, whether that's up downs, whether that's, pushing a plate up and down the field, whether it's pushing a towel in the hallway. He took his turn doing that. He hated it, but he knew why he was doing it, and he embraced that, and he's come along now. Now he shows up 15 minutes early to a lifting session at 6 a.m. And it's back. I go, I never thought I would hear that one day, that you'd be the first guy waiting to get into the field sports building at 5:45 for a 6 a.m. lift. So credit yourself for that. You deserve credit. And he's embraced it. And I give him a bunch of credit for that, because that's what it's all about.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else for Coach, we'll let you get out of here, Coach. Thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck with Toledo this week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. I'm going to let Drew Plitt into the room here. Drew, can you hear us all right there?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Great. Thank you for joining us. Nice Christmas lights in the background there.
Thank you.
Drew, let me spotlight your video here for the group. And then if you could just give us a little bit on turning the page to Toledo this week, and what you've seen in your preparation for them so far.
Yeah, we started on Toledo the day after the game, really. Went in and watched a little bit of film. Was able to kind of see their last 3 games and kind of look at the game last year. And I know they're going to remember last year's game, just kind of feel like probably the embarrassment feeling. So they're going to come out strong, and something that we got to do is come out fast. We haven't come out fast the last couple games, so we got to come out fast and play all 4 quarters. That's kind of been the emphasis the last 2 days, is playing start to finish with a lot of energy.
Great. We'll open it up for questions. Connor, if you want to start us off.
Hey, Drew. Just moving to Saturday's games now here at the, the halfway point of your season. How have you made the most of, kind of this extended time off, and what do you think some of the benefits are with that?
Yeah, a lot of the benefits are just recovery. You get a couple extra days to study film on your next opponent, but they are who they are, and once we get down the basics of them, we have that, but everything else is recovery. That's a huge thing with the extra 3 days basically that we have, is recovery, kind of relaxing, getting everybody's body healthy again, especially players like Caleb Huntley and Justin, who got a couple bumps and bruises, getting them back healthy 100% for the next 3 games.
I wanted to ask you today also about your new offensive coordinator this season, Kevin Lynch. Describe the impact and his attitude that he brings to your locker room each day.
Yeah, Kevin brings a lot of energy. He's a Lynch, so they bring a lot of energy all the time. But he's done great. He stepped into the role really nicely. I know Coach Neu and him kind of split that role a little bit and kind of share ideas, bounce ideas off each other. But it's been great for me too, because he's really listened to me and allowed me to kind of play my game. So he's been great to have around. He's like I said, he's a Lynch, so we get along well, and he's been here my 5 years that I've been here. So it's been great.
Now that he's in the offensive coordinator position, would you say, I guess, have you seen maybe like a shift in his leadership this season and maybe more confidence?
Not really that. It's just I think he's a little bit more vocal around the whole group, because he's the head guy on the offense side of the ball. So you see him talk a lot more. But Kevin's himself, and he's going to stay himself, and that's the great thing about him. He's not going to waver from that.
And then lastly, what does it mean for you, to have another Lynch in here, knowing his brother was in the same position, and also with guys like Bill and Billy, that family history? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, they're a great family, and they understand football. They're all really smart people when it comes to kind of the X's and O's of everything. But it's been great because he was here before, and it was kind of a seamless transition from Joey to him, just because he stuck everything with the same that we were doing before.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jordan.
Hey, Drew, you mentioned Justin getting right there. He's someone who, so far in his career has played in every game that he's had the opportunity to. I guess as the quarterback, when you see him out there with you, I guess, do you just get excited in your mind before you even hear a play call sometimes, just knowing the potential that Justin has on any given play?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime the ball is in Justin's hands, you never know what's going to happen. You never know the big play that's going to happen. And everybody gets excited. Everybody talks about it. We want to get Justin the ball as much as possible. And because he's such a valuable weapon, and he knows how to make plays. And we have a lot of weapons. So getting everybody else the ball too opens him up more, and just creates bigger plays for him. So, it definitely excites me when there's plays called that are just for him, or a chance for him to get the ball.
Mm-hmm. And Mike pointed to the Illinois game, that Justin's freshman year as the game where he really saw Justin, show the potential for what he's been doing. Are there any games or moments that stand out to you, whether it's a game or practice, about Justin and about what he can do?
It's not really necessary. I think it's just the accumulation of everything. He's one of the leading players in the NCAA with broken tackles, and that's the kind of player he is. He gets hit, but he stays up. He's tough to bring down. He makes big plays. He makes tough catches. The whole 9 yards, whatever you want to say. He's making plays out there from the first game. And Illinois was his first game he's ever played. So he's just an all around great player, and exciting to watch.
Thanks, Drew.
All right. Anything else for Drew while we have him here today? All right. Drew, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good Thanksgiving and good luck this week.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.